And got all the things. We're being recorded, we're live, all the
We're
stuff.
ready.
So welcome, everybody. My name is Eric. I'm here with Celeste from the library and the amazing, magnificent, wonderful, mighty Zulynette. Yeah!
Hi.
Hi. So happy to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
So for those folks that do not know Zulynette, you will if you don't yet, but you will soon. Zulynette is a writer, a blogger, a painter, a makeup artist. Well, I've seen you put makeup on like real fancy stuff. And I don't know, it looks like art to me.
Oh, like face painting. I was like,
Yeah,
no,
like
no, no, I'm not a makeup artist, I swear.
I guess that's not the, I guess that's probably not the appropriate term. Maybe there's probably a better term. What would be the better term?
I would say I do body painting and face painting.
Boom! Zulynette is also a body painter and a face painter. In their spare time. So so I'm super psyched to be here talking with you today, Zulynette. So welcome. Let's go ahead and jump right in. I noticed not too long ago you had written about making the sort of leap into, let's call it full-time artistry, let's say. Wow. How was that for you?
Well, wow, what a big question.
Yeah,
it's been all sorts of things for me. Like whatever it is that somebody is thinking right now, the answer is yes. That's what it's been like. It has been, funny enough, on the 6th, I celebrated the 5th year anniversary of quitting a full-time job, working for somebody else, and doing this for myself instead. And so it's been challenging. It's been delightful. It's been eye-opening. It's definitely been a learning experience in terms of all the things that I learned I want to do and trying to learn how to do them all. It's been a blessing and really affirming in terms of challenging the starving artist narrative, and challenging the idea that you can't love what you do or do what you love full time. So it's been all those sorts of things. Overall, in a nutshell, it's been great. It's been great to set my own schedule. It's been great to create the things that mean something to me. It's been amazing to create authentic connections with who I want to, whether it's individual people, groups, organizations. It's been great to affiliate myself with people whose values align with my own. And it's been great to hear feedback from the community that, sometimes what I do makes an impact. So overall, it's been a blessing to have given myself the opportunity to at least try this out. And so far, we're 5 years in. So
so far so good.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Can you tell me about something you've learned about yourself since making this decision in the last 5 years? As you reflect on those 5 years, what have you learned, or what are you learning about yourself?
I like that you rephrase it as learning, like it's still in process. What's still in process for me in terms of what I'm learning is the value of patience. I don't see myself as a patient person. I have been hearing over the last year that I'm a very patient person. but just seeing how with everything being on social media, you think everything happens really fast for people. We would hear success stories before and it would seem like they were overnight, and now it sounds like they happen in seconds. And that's not the case. Really good things that last over time take time. And I'm still learning to be patient. I'm still learning that not everything blooms all year long. I'm still learning that some things need to be planted and just need to relax and chill out for a bit before they can grow into what they're supposed to grow into. So that has been the biggest lesson that I've learned over the last 5 years, for sure. It's like, stay the course and chill out.
Yeah, that's powerful. And yeah, I feel that deeply. Patience is not one of my strong suits either. So yeah, and a really important part of the process too. So I'm curious about, like, can you take me back? So it's 5 years ago. You were at a place, you were working somewhere, you're in a different place in your life. Was there like a moment when you knew, like, I'm gonna make this transition? Was it gradual over time? What was that? Like, yeah, can you say more about that?
So I had worked at so some of my background, a large part of my background is actually in research, specifically what's called participatory action research. Google it if you need to. For everybody at home.
I will. And thank you.
But I was working at a research-based nonprofit, and I had been working there since I was a teenager, and it was the work that I was most familiar with, and I knew that I would never find another job like that. So I was like, this is it for me for the rest of my life. And then I got my MSW from UConn in 2013, and they had a full-time job lined up for me because, again, they like knew me for most of my life at that point. And I knew 3 months in that I wasn't supposed to be there. I remember journaling 3 months in. It's like, what am I doing here? I now had, I had the adult job, I had my car, my apartment, health insurance, a dental plan, all that good stuff, all the things that are supposed to be markers of success, especially as somebody that had grown up poor, who had, my mom was on welfare, and I'd been at welfare departments with her, waiting in line to like get approved for food stamps and all that stuff. Like, I had been on that side, and now I was on this other side, and I was like, I'm supposed to be happy with this. And I wasn't. It wasn't fulfilling for me. So I knew 3 months in that I wasn't supposed to be there. It happened during a meeting. It happened during a meeting where we were planning another meeting. And I was like, what are we doing? What am I doing? And so, yeah, I knew 3 months in, and I stayed for 3 years.
Wow.
There was a lot of work to be undone. There was a lot of work to be undone in terms of like, this is who I am, though. This is part of my identity. I'm supposed to be happy that I have all these things, that I have a secure job, that I have, again, all these markers of success to somebody who came from where I came from. And it wasn't good enough. And then also, it wasn't just like, I want to leave this job for another job. It was, I want to leave this to create something I've never seen done before, at least not in my immediate circle, not in my immediate community. I'm like, this is wild. So I was sitting with this is wild for years before I finally decided, no, I need to do something for real. I need to at least try. But in terms of the moment, that was the moment. It was when we were meeting about another meeting, and I was like, what is life right now? Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Yeah. That's so powerful. And also, like, it also kind of reminds me of what you said a little bit earlier about patience, and your willingness to be patient with yourself in that, under those circumstances, kind of this undoing that you're talking about. So often, I think people closely associate who they are and their identity with what they do. And it can be wild to kind of put that aside for a second and figure out who you are outside of the context of what you do. So those two things are so closely linked. So what was that process like for you? So you're in month 5. 3 months in, like, I'm good. Now you're in month 5. Like, how are you like maintaining your own sanity as you're moving in and out of this world that you're sort of like, this is not for me anymore? What's that process like?
The process was just kind of sucking it up and burying it deep down inside of my soul and pretending that everything was okay and that I could just do it all. I would say about 1.5 years in, I tried to convince myself that I could hold down a full-time job and be a full-time artist and also be performing and then also see where it goes and build off of that. And I was like, yeah, that didn't last very long. I had actually had, I got a sign from the universe about 1.5 years in to cut myself down from full-time to part-time. And that sort of made my boss go, what? Yeah, I think I made it through by trying to convince myself that I could do it all, that I could hold on to a secure job that I was familiar with, where people knew me, that I was good at, and where it wasn't like I hated anybody. It wasn't like I hated my boss or like I hated the executive director. Like, I was actually relatively cool with everything that was going on. But in terms of like my soul and fulfillment, it wasn't there. So I think I was trying to hold on to that. Like, you should be grateful for, you should be thankful that you have this job. You should be grateful that, you graduated with a cohort of other MSWs, and some of them were still struggling to find jobs, and you have one. So you should be happy that you have this. That's what helped me to hold on. At the time, that's how I was like convincing myself that everything was okay. So I think that's what made me stick it out for those 3 years. It was, again, that false sense of security. I then started to encounter people that were doing what I wanted to do, or some form of it, eventually. And they would say things, not even directly to me, but in conversation, like, if you're holding on to a safety net that has nothing to do with what you love, you probably don't love it as much as you think. And I'd be like, oh, why are you dragging me like that? Why are you trying to hurt my feelings? I would get so offended by it, but also it resonated with me. Like, it impacted me that much. Not that it has to be true for anybody else, but for me, I was like, that resonates so much with me because it's true. Because I know that I'm holding on out of fear. That's it. I'm holding on out of fear. But I started to get these signs, and I got one in particular, and I again went in and I told my supervisor, I was like, hey, listen, I got 40 hours a week. I'd like that to be 20. And she was like, okay. And then I tried that on for about 1.5 years, or maybe 1 year. And again, trying to do it all. I was like, maybe if I cut myself down to part-time, I can work here 20 hours a week, and I can still pursue art and create and have all the energy and mental space that I'm looking for to do all these other things that I love and build out that business. And it eventually got to the point, where it was just messing with me mentally and spiritually, emotionally, all the things. I started to self-sabotage. I started to like intentionally go late into work. I was like, looking back on it now, I know that the message I was trying to send was like, you can fire me, please fire me. And they weren't, because they were a caring group. So they were more like, are you okay? And I'm like, but also it it got to a really dark point. I would say probably 6 months before I made the final leap, where I was I was waking up in the morning and I was really disappointed that I was very disappointed that I woke up, because I knew that I would have to go into work.
Do this thing you didn't want to do.
There was I would say a month or two, no, a few months before I made that final leap, I saw, I was part of this group called the Iron Poets in Hartford, and there was an event at Trinity College in Hartford. And there was I didn't know who was going to be performing that night. And there was an artist who is also a poet, and he got up on stage, because also I was like, I have to pick one. Also, if I do this, I have to either be a poet or an artist. And that's what I'm going to dedicate all my energy to. I'm super realistic. And and so I saw this human being get up on stage, and they were spitting poetry while making a painting right then and there in front of us. I was like, and my best friend at the time was sitting next to me, was like elbowing me. I was like, you see that? You see that? And I was like, yeah, I get it, I got it. And I went into work the next day, and I looked at my desk, and I just started to bawl. I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. I was like so alive the night prior, and I was so inspired and moved by this person that I saw, like in the trajectory of where I wanted to be, that the next day I couldn't even deal with being at that desk. And then I would say a few months later is when I was like, listen, this is it. I've saved up some money to be okay for a few months. And if I decide that this is the worst thing I've ever done, I can at least go back. I had also been in conversation with folks about like, what is a secure job really? And I was like, I gotta try. I am more afraid of not trying than I am of like losing this job, losing this identity. I'm more scared that I'm not giving myself a chance to give this a shot. So yeah, June 6, 2016, I went and I quit my job twice because I went to the founding director first and I quit with them, and they were like, I'm not surprised. And then I went to the executive director separately and was like, I'm quitting. And they were like, okay. And it's funny because the first thing, the first thing the executive director told me, like as soon as I said, like, I think I'm putting in my 2 weeks right now, the very first thing they said was, aren't you afraid of being a starving artist? And I was like, I mean, a part of me was like, of course, fool. But a bigger part of me was like, no, I know that I can always get employed. I know, like, not in a cocky or arrogant sense, but like somebody is always looking for you to fulfill their dreams on their behalf. I know that. I know what society we live in. I know what nation we live in. Somebody's always looking for you to work for them. I know that. So I know I can always get a job. But I don't know how I will live like not trying to fulfill my own dreams. So I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna go give that a shot.
It's incredible to me how I think this pattern is super common. I think it's super common among creatives especially, which is that we grin and bear it. We do our best to try to like make things work, and particularly like with your situation in terms of like like I can remember like so my mom my mom came here from Puerto Rico, right? So she's not, I don't know if she's an immigrant or not. I don't think so. But she moved here from Puerto Rico, not having spoke the language, not having, she was 5 years old when her mother brought her over, right? So there was always this kind of mentality around security, right? Being able to like take care of yourself, being like, being able to kind of like, it was less about self-determination and more about self-sufficiency. Right? But those two things, they feel so similar. They feel so close to each other. you know, growing up, to me, it was just like, it was hard for me to tell the difference until I got to that one word that you used, which was fulfillment. Um, so, so can we talk about that a little bit? Can you tell me about, like, what does fulfillment mean for you now? And like, how is it showing up in your life?
Fulfillment to me is when I can feel that flow of alignment, when I can feel that there is connection happening, when I can feel that I am helping somebody, or when something that is being co-created in the room is like them helping each other out too, if we're like working in a group. That to me is what fulfillment is. It's me helping in the way that I am meant to help. I think all of us are put on here to help each other. And what we get caught up in is the how. For me, fulfillment is knowing that I can be in authentic relationship with whoever it is that I'm in the room with for however long it is that we're in the room. It's getting out a message, expressing myself, talking about what's happening in the world in an honest way, in a way that feels true for me. That's fulfillment. Fulfillment is also getting paid for what it is that I love to do. That's also very fulfilling. Making a living off of what it is that I love to do and knowing that I'm doing it with the intention to help. Yeah, that's much more succinct answer than I thought it was going to be going into it, but I think I'm a period it there.
That's a good period spot. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So good. It feels like a good time to show off. Can we show off some of your work?
Yeah, sure. I love to show off.
Yeah, yeah, great. Great. Let me pull up the screen here. Here we go. All right.
Cool.
Let's make this big. Okay. Cool. All right. So here is some examples of your painting, because I know you're engaged in a bunch of other stuff too. I know you're doing some writing. I know you facilitate, which also is an art. Don't let anybody tell you any different. Facilitation is an art.
Facilitation is an art. That's correct.
Facilitation is 100% an art. So why don't we start, because I'm a Leo.
As am
Can
I.
we start with this lion? Can you tell me about this lion? Like, tell me all about it. Like, what's happening here? Who?
Yeah.
You know.
So this.
Yeah.
So this was a commission for somebody in New York. He had wanted a lion because he's a Leo as well.
Naturally.
Of course.
Naturally. Yes.
We can't even help ourselves. So he had also been talking a lot about all the things that he was going through. His mom was having medical issues. Someone in his family had contracted COVID and it wasn't looking good. And he was just talking about all the things that he was facing. Like, this was separate from the painting. But he just said, I want you to paint me a lion, do what you want. That was it. Those are my instructions. And I wanted to make something that felt regal, that felt like it was moving, and that felt like it was moving through something, because he was moving through something. He liked to say the phrase pa'lante, which in Spanish means, like move forward, like going forward, keep moving, always forward. And so I wanted to make the lion look as though that's exactly what it was doing in there, that it was sort of moving through these things, which was represented by the blocks, those little golden blocks, but also make it look regal. So all the things that you see on your screen that might look like mustard yellow are actually gold. So it is metallic, including like in the hair and whatnot. So it was to honor, the Leo in him, but also the the bravery and the moving through the obstacles that he was at the time that I was commissioned to make this for him.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I'm seeing all of those things. I'm definitely seeing the movement. For me, this color, this background color is so very rich. That's to me the piece that feels like the regal part, well, one of the regal parts of this, aside from it just being a lion, which is already pretty damn regal.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And how big is this piece? Because on the wall, it actually looks like way bigger than it looked on the floor.
It's an 18 by 24. It's
Okay.
to me, it's pretty small compared to some of the other things that I made, like the gorilla painting. That's like right there. It's, for me, it's actually pretty small.
Say no more, fam.
So the gorilla piece.
Let's go on to the gorilla.
I wanted to make something. I wanted to make, this is one of 6 paintings, I think, so far. I want to make a collection of animals, of big animals, a beast collection, if you will. And
a beast collection, indeed.
Yes, and I also wanted to challenge gender norms while painting it. So every time somebody has seen this, they usually say, "Oh, he," and I'm like, actually, that's a she. And the name of it is "Don't Get It Twisted," because gorillas are actually super peaceful. They're also vegetarians, unless, of course, provoked. And so it's sort of honoring that in terms of like how I was raised and the messaging that I got around, don't start none, won't be none. So this piece is about that. And also, again, the idea of what represents femininity, what represents masculinity. And for this, the people that I have seen be the most ferocious and the most protective have been women. So this is a she, not a he.
I love that. I love "Don't Get It Twisted." Yeah, and the gender bending of it all as well, because like, yeah, the assumptions that we all, well, I won't speak for all of us, but I certainly catch myself making assumptions all the time, that I have to. This is like that unlearning thing that you were talking about earlier. I think this part feels true, that we're all on some kind of journey of both learning and unlearning and unpacking stuff.
Right.
So,
because I certainly was taught the same thing. So yeah, I feel you on that.
Yeah.
So it's unlearning for me as well, what it means to be a woman, what it means to be femme, what it means to be in touch with my feminine side. Like, how do I define that for myself? How do I unlearn the things that I learned? What can stay and what can go?
Yeah. Or another way that I think about it too is like, what's mine and what's not.
Yes.
Like what's my stuff really, and what's something that somebody else just kind of like put in here. Not to say that all of those things are bad, because sometimes the ideas that get put in are great and like, oh wow, yeah, like let's do that. But also it feels like something important to be sort of sovereign in that process, to be clear about like, this is actually me, like this is my stuff, this is my thing, I've got to, I'm trying to navigate this or not, like that's actually yours, you can deal with that. I don't really have to be involved in that. And that's, I have found it incredibly difficult.
Yeah. Oh, and let's throw a wrench in it. This could be mine just for this time being.
Right.
Then we throw in the concept of time, and it's like, because I'm a change. Hopefully, if I'm doing things right, I'm gonna change.
Right.
So this might be mine just for now. Might not be mine next year.
For a season, and then maybe we'll go do something else. Can we look at one more?
Sure. I'm trying to I'm trying to see where you're at while I'm on my own Instagram in a second, just so I can navigate you properly. It's the only reason why.
Yes.
The reason why. If you scroll down to, you can scroll down a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. There we go. We could go to the drum piece, which most people think is a coffee cup.
Fair enough. They are wrong, clearly.
Correct. It is a drum.
Obviously
dang it.
A drum. Yes.
So the fun part about this piece, it's called Pa que tú lo sepas, which in English is "so you know it." The whole phrase is "Yo soy boricua, pa que tú lo sepas," which means I am Boricua. Borinquen is the original name of Puerto Rico. It's the indigenous name of Puerto Rico. So this painting was actually a rejected drawing for the Puerto Rican festival in Hartford a couple of years ago. I was commissioned to make art for them that they were then going to put on mugs, on t-shirts, etc. And so this was one of the sketches. It was one of 3 sketches. So like, don't feel too bad. One of them did get accepted. And it's on coffee mugs and t-shirts and whatnot. But this one was not accepted. So, but I loved it. I loved it because it was encompassing so many things that I think about when I think of Puerto Rico. And I was like, I'm going to paint this. And not only am I going to paint it, I'm going to paint it big. And so I deconstructed the Puerto Rican flag just because I wanted to do something a little more abstract with it. And it actually looks a little different. I changed the blue. Now it's a whole lot lighter to represent the original flag. And yeah, when I think of Puerto Rico, I think of drums. I think of the sound of drums. Drums for me represents heartbeats. And when I think of heart, I think of home. And when I think of home, I think of where it is that my family comes from. And so within the drum itself, there are these things that that come to mind when I think of Puerto Rico, including like the petroglyphs that are on that are in the native caves there. El Morro, of course. I partly painted that in there because of my mom, not even me. Machete, the Gigante mask, quenepas, which are like a fruit. Yeah, all these things that come, dominoes, all these things that come to mind when I think of my own family and when I think of the island. And then in the star, it's really hard to see that detail. But in the star is silhouettes of different people, just to showcase, yeah, it looks funky on a camera. I mean, yeah. Okay, you can kind of see it maybe. But yeah, it's basically a silhouette of different people to just represent community, to represent us, who we are, that being the central thing. So I took the star off of the flag and I put it on the drum instead. Like all these things collectively make us up. Yeah. So I love that painting. Yeah. And that's that one.
Yeah, I love that too. I love the deconstructed flag. It took me a second to get there. And then I was like, oh no, that's the flag. That's really dope. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. Thank you for talking about this stuff here.
Really... Oh, and a fun fact that I learned, my family is from Toalta. And Toalta, you know how every like state or city has like its slogan of like what it is. Yes. And Toalta, it just so happens to be, it's also known as La Cuna de Poetas, which is the cradle of poets. And I was like,
wow.
Huh, look at that.
Look at
I
that.
did good by them. Great. I didn't even know that. Learned that long after I, made the leap. So that was fun.
Well, I just learned, so I knew my folks were from Vega Baja, but I just learned that the town slogan in Vega Baja is Melao Melao, sugar.
Huh.
There was like, they did, it was a big sugarcane community. They grew a lot of cane. So, I don't know how that applies. I'm a sweet guy. I'll say that. Yeah. I'm a total.
That's what I was gonna go with. I was gonna go with that.
But it was cool. It was cool to go back and sort of see stuff and like, yeah, this whole slogan. And I don't know if you knew this, but each town has their own flag.
Yes.
I did not know that. So so be on the lookout for Vega Baja flag t-shirts coming soon. And Toalta flags.
I'm gonna see if our specific part of Toalta has a flag. I doubt it, but yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So so I'd like to try something a little bit different with you, if I can. Usually, here's the question I usually ask. Usually the question I ask is, what would you tell your 15-year-old self? That's usually the question I ask. Today, it's going to be a little different. So here's the question I'm asking. What would the you 10 years from now tell you today? So this is future you in all of your splendor and glory, talking to today's you in all of your splendor and glory.
It's funny
What
because
would you
I've
say?
answered both of these questions to myself already. So
Brilliant, naturally. Of course you have. Of course
me
you have.
10 years from now would say, keep going.
Yeah.
That's it. That's like
Yeah.
the most, because it's the simplest things to us that are the hardest, that we make the most challenging. Like everything from drinking water to stretching to like going to bed on time, like these simple things that take care of us are the things that we complicate the most.
Yeah.
So keep going. It sounds simple enough, right? But it's like, nah, things are gonna get hard, things are gonna get complicated. But just like when you're playing Super Mario, you meet different bosses at different levels because you're leveling up. You meet different challenges at different levels, and that lets you know that you're leveling up. So keep going. I think that's what me 10 years from now would say, is keep going. And funny enough, the 15-year-old thing I had actually had asked myself as the maybe 12-year-old version of myself, and I have it tatted on me, actually part of my response. I had prompted myself, as I do because I am a writer or whatever. I had prompted myself years ago. This was probably prior to making the leap, where I asked myself if I could go back in time. 12 was like probably one of the darkest periods of my life. And I was like, if I could go back and tell myself one thing before disappearing, I'm freaking my 12-year-old self out. If I could go back and tell myself one thing, what would it be? And I had written down, do not fear the darkness, including your own, for you are the most dangerous thing in the forest. And I was like, yeah. I would still, to this day, that's still probably what I would go and tell my younger self, because I would need that sort of feeling of protection. I would need that feeling of I'm gonna be okay. I would need that feeling also of like safety around what it is that I was feeling towards myself. It's like you don't have to be afraid of that either. You can embrace all of that. Like you're gonna make it out. You're in the forest now. You might stay in the forest for a long period of time, but there's nothing in here that can take you out. Yeah, so that is what is tatted on my arm.
Yeah, that's dope.
Thank you.
That's great. That reminds me of this quote that I'm gonna get all the way wrong, but it's basically, I don't even remember. It's a whole setup, but the punchline is there's a person who is like worried about an impending storm, and so that they're preparing for the storm, and then you find out that the person is the storm. The last line is, "You are the storm," and that I just found to be so so powerful, and so thank you for that.
Of course, there's nothing and nobody that can be your best friend or your worst enemy than yourself. The whole world can say whatever it is that they want about you, your job, your work, your decisions, your identities, your sexuality, whatever the case may be. But if you take those things on, that's a game changer. And if you don't take those things on, it's a game changer. So yeah, that's what I would, those are the messages.
Yeah. So, so what's next for Zulynette? Where can we see you? Where can we find you? Like, where's all your stuff? Like, how can people be down, Zulynette? That's really the question. People are going to see this. They're going to want to be down. They're going to want to buy artwork. They're going to want to have you perform. They're going to want to do all the stuff. Yeah. How do they do that? Also, like, what's coming? Like, what's happening?
Yeah, so the things that are coming are, I'm working on book number 2 right now.
Yes.
My first book was called Building a Powerhouse, and I had released it in 2017, and now I'm working on book 2. It doesn't have a title yet. I might call it book 2, just to be honest, and lazy.
Yeah.
So that should be coming out in August. Also happening in August, on the 7th, I am going to be having an art auction at Free Center. It's called Free Center in Middletown. Why should Christie's in New York have all the fun? Like, we can have our own art auctions. So that's also coming down the line. If folks want to reach out to me for performances, to facilitate workshops, to be a guest speaker, you can do all that through Zulynette.com. Hopefully my name's spelled right there or there. I don't know where my name plaque is. So you can reach me through Zulynette.com. What else is coming down the line? I always forget to write these things down before any interview so that I can tell y'all all the things. But yeah, if you want to reach out to me to speak, to perform poetry, to do workshops, to do some fun combination of all of the above, to commission me for artwork, you can go to Zulynette.com. And you can also appropriately stalk me on Instagram. My handle on there is @the_Zulynette. You can support me. If you can't book me for a performance or a workshop, you can support me through Buy Me a Coffee, which is an app, and it's awesome. And also I have a Patreon, so you can become a monthly subscriber. And on my Patreon, I share all sorts of fun stuff. I release stuff on there early, from poems to paintings. So you get first access to a lot of stuff. I also share thinky thoughts. I share how-tos. I share tips and tricks. I do all the good stuff on there. And also, you know, occasionally I send you some goodies if you become a patron. Oh, and lastly, because I do a trillion things, you can also listen to my podcast. And Eric's actually going to be a guest on it soon. You can listen to my podcast. It's called The Creative Alchemist, where I chop it up with really cool fellow entrepreneurs, artists, creatives of all that are all on a different spectrum in terms of how they do it for work or not work or as a hobby. Doesn't matter to me.
Nice.
And yeah, talk about my path as a working creative. So that is The Creative Alchemist. You can also support that podcast too.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. So for my final question, this question I do ask everybody. It is, what did I not ask you that I should have?
What did you not ask me that you should have? I've got nothing. I think maybe next time, I think with preparation, not right now, but I think next time, if I could actually share poetry on here, that might be rad.
Yes.
You can ask me to do that.
Okay, great. Next time, poetry. Live poetry reading. I love it. I'm into it. Zulynette, this has been such a pleasure. It's been so good to talk to you. That was so 3 so's. It was so good to talk to you. Now 4 so's.
Favorite number. Thank you for that.
Yeah, I don't don't know if Kareem is there. Sometimes we'll have folks ask a question. Are you
Ooh.
open to answering a question?
Absolutely,
Yeah? Okay.
1000% yes.
Awesome. Kareem, are you there? Do you have a question that you would like to ask? I'm going to stick with the mighty Zulynette. I like the mighty.
I will take that. Thank you. Mighty
Okay.
Zulynette. I'm going to use that. That really resonated for me. Also, the person that's there, their name is Karime.
Oh, Karime. Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's not why they're not responding. Karime Perez. Eric. It's cool. It's cool. Awesome. It's Thank you so much. You've been fantastic. You're so gracious. I really, really appreciated looking at your artwork as well, and getting to know you. And I'm super psyched about the little collaboration on the podcast.
Yes.
The little cross pollination. So come check us out. If you can.
Awesome. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Zulynette.
Thank you so much. It was great. So inspirational.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
So everybody's done set. I will end up this meeting. Thank you again.
Thank you. See you soon.
Bye.